I'm Alex Jones. This is INFOWARS Nightly News on Tuesday, September 13th, 2011. And we've had a lot of jam-packed transmissions in the last week and a half since we kicked off this worldwide resistance to tyranny on September 1st. But tonight is particularly power-packed. We've got a special report documenting the fact that there are more slaves today, 27 plus million, than there has ever been in world history. More slaves alive today than we've ever had before. We're also going to look at government narcotics trafficking,
which is grown from poppies, which are right now being harvested.
How do you deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
It's $1 trillion+ a year industry worldwide. Half of that is consumed here in the United States. $500 billion. We're going to be looking at some incredible developments on that front. And we're also going to have a special report filed by our reporters dealing with Facebook and their face scanning system as they prepare the public for total Big Brother surveillance. All that and more is coming up tonight. But first off, out of this cornucopia of news, I've got Ron Paul news again. Just a few days ago, he won the MSNBC poll, and MSNBC would not report it. Now, today, the Wall Street Journal only allowed you to vote for Perry, Romney, or Bachmann or someone else, and 60.4% were for Ron Paul. And when you read the comments, and there are hundreds of these, Ron Paul, shame on you, Wall Street Journal, for leaving his name off the poll. Stupid media trying to shut him out. I voted for somebody else. I'm voting for Ron Paul. Other equals Ron Paul. Ron Paul won this debate. I'm sick of Ron Paul being excluded, marginalized, and ignored. I mean, go read it for yourself. He is winning the straw polls, or coming in second place. He is dominating everywhere, and their response is Bachmann 1.2, Perry 16.5, Romney 21.8, and this is geolocated. You can only vote once, so this is scientific. It's just like he got 54% of the MSNBC when it closed, and they just showed the other candidates and didn't point out that he got more than all the others combined. They're scared of him. Why? Because he's anti-New World Order. Because he's the real deal. They're scared of Ron Paul. And this is a long line. There have been hundreds of examples in this campaign so far of this exact type of behavior. Same thing 3.5 years ago. But this time, people are awake more than ever. He is a major contender. So that's our top story today, because it's not just about Ron Paul. It's about globalist, corporate, whore, teleprompter, media, just so scared of a real constitutionalist. Now, in a few other news items I have here that I'm getting into government drug dealing, I got to read this one. It's so weird. Eel removed from man's bladder after entering penis during beauty spa. This is out of Metro News out of the UK. They've got all sorts of weird beauty spa things where you get these tanks with fish that eat the skin off of you and supposedly give you this great exfoliation. It's the same thing here with these eels. You know, I'm just glad I'm a common guy that likes a good steak or some enchiladas and a cold beer. I don't need to feel like I'm pampering myself in a bathtub full of eels. But there's that bizarre news. Just thought I'd hit something strange for an occasion. German leader faces key choice on rescuing euro. That's being spun. They're really handing over all their sovereignty to private bankers that set up the derivative scam. Bachmann's coming out. We'll talk about this more with Mike Adams when he joins us, saying that she knows people that have been made mentally retarded from the Gardasil shot. Shows how issues that were fringe are now mainstream. U.S. Census data shows rising poverty. A record number of Americans are now under poverty. It's just a giant amount. And we also have a record number of children. 22% are now living in poverty, worse than many third world nations. Again, number of poor hits 46 million in 2010. You always get these numbers about 8-9 months late. And so America under globalism, NAFTA and GATT is certainly falling apart. And then this story, we're going to try to get these guys on the show. They made 9/11 Press for Truth many years ago. They've gotten interviews with some of the top former White House advisors like Richard Clarke. They've identified the CIA agents that ordered the 9/11 stand down, and they've now been threatened with prison time if they release their names. And more, we're seeing Wall Street Journal, New York Times people facing trials for releasing government corruption. So this is serious. CIA threatens 9/11 researchers after discovery of cover-up details. That is coming up in the next few days. We're working on getting those folks on. Now, let's shift gears to the whole shadow government that can't be investigated and is above the law, untouchable, until we take our country back. I remember seeing Paul Watson break this about 5 months ago at prisonplanet.com. Since then, it's in the Chicago Tribune and El Paso Times, and I know our guys have put together a package that they can roll over showing some of these mainstream headlines. But the CIA, just 3 days ago, it was confirmed, did go ahead and declare national security in this trial where the head of the Sinaloa, that's the #1 drug cartel in Mexico, who got caught by the Mexican government, has said, look, I have U.S. government immunity. And there's a photo of him. And the DEA and others came in to the court hearing, and they've now released a PDF of that on the federal government's own servers, where they go, yes, it's true. This guy works for us. He shipped narcotics into the United States. We ship guns into Mexico to knock out their competition. And then, of course, they have the side issue of then demonizing the Second Amendment. So the federal government is shipping tens of thousands of weapons into Mexico to certain cartels to wipe out cartels that aren't laundering their money through them. And what the head of the Sinaloa cartel has now claimed, he was the head of U.S. operations, so I guess #2, has now been confirmed. And there's just part of the federal affidavit where they're saying, yeah, he's been told he has immunity. But it's a good lesson not to serve the dark side, because they always burn their own minions. Now, let's turn a bit farther afield to Afghanistan. You've heard in the last 2 days there's rocket attacks, guerrilla attacks on the U.S. embassy in Kabul there in Afghanistan. And what's really happening is you've got tribes that have their own opium fields burned by U.S. forces, but then select groups are allowed to grow their opium. That's why troops go in and say, are you part of our group? And if you're not, they burn your fields. And so basically it's a drug war over $500 billion a year in opium. 92% of world opium production comes out of Afghanistan alone. Pre-invasion 10 years ago, only about 11%. So it's up, 9-10-fold, close to that. And it's the same thing with Vietnam, opium production exploding into the U.S. These are wars over illegal drugs. You make them legal, you take the profit out. This situation ends overnight. And we've got a couple clips here. The first one is ABC News from a year ago, in case you're a new viewer and doubting us, whitewashing it. U.S. military is concerned. They don't like helping grow opium, protecting it, helping ship it out. And so they've spoken out. So the government's response is just throw it in everybody's face and go, okay, we're helping grow the opium. We're helping ship it out. Let's go ahead and move along. So here's that clip from ABC News.
The Taliban finances much of its operations by selling opium, which is grown from poppies, which are right now being harvested. So here's the question. Why are American troops now helping Afghan farmers grow that opium?
In western Kandahar, poppy farmers score, till, harvest their crop, and the Americans do nothing to stop them.
Oh, they give them the fertilizer.
U.S. soldiers greet farmers.
Can you show me which poppy field is yours?
They commiserate with farmers.
Because if it isn't part of our crew, we're burning it.
I'm very sorry for this field.
Don't pay cut. Shut it down.
Better harvest next year.
And that's why soldiers ignore and encourage the farmers.
Yeah, ignore and encourage.
Farmers would blame the U.S. for their poverty and turn toward the Taliban.
Oh. If we secure them having a good harvest, now they're going to get paid for all their hard work, and then we can deal with the trafficking afterwards.
We can deal with the trafficking afterwards. The whole country's Taliban. It's a bunch of tribes. But they know Americans are dumb. It's like our media claims Al-Qaeda is based in Iran. Those are Shiites. They're arch enemies of the Saudi Arabian Wahhabists. But I don't know the soccer teams in Pakistan, do you? Just like we don't know who the players are over there. They just completely play us as idiots. But it got worse with Geraldo Rivera. You can watch the whole clip online. Just type in Geraldo Rivera, U.S. government growing opium. They give them the fertilizer, security, and then load it on and fly it here. And we'll deal with the trafficking when your dumb kid uses it. We'll throw them in a private prison owned by big banks that launder the drug money. Let's play that clip.
These troops have confiscated 10,000 pounds of opium before the profit reached the Taliban.
And in a sense, you're watching as this opium is being grown. I know it grinds at your gut.
Oh, yes,
grinds. How do you
grinds.
deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do. We provide them security, we're providing them resources, and we're providing them alternatives.
The Marines are doing the good thing. Dave, Clayton, and Allison, back to you guys in New York.
He just explains it better than we can ever read in any paper, what a dilemma it is with the opium trade.
And they make so much money off the opium per yard there. They make so much money compared to those other crops.
This is the group
so it
thing.
Sounds great in theory, and Geraldo says this predicament that these politicians have put these guys in.
Predicament.
To tell them, hey, make a lot less money than the heroin you could be making with the poppy.
And they can't destroy it.
Right.
Again, Pat Tillman wrote home about this. They had to kill him. Troops were calling me. We were covering it. That, yeah, we guard it. We give them the fertilizer. It's loaded on C-130, shipped to America. So the system said, look, we'll just throw it in your face. I was listening to Bloomberg Radio this morning, and they were going, yeah, Europe's imploding. We're setting up a banking dictatorship. Ha, ha, ha. But are Americans going to get concerned? And the host said, no, Americans are dumb. Most Americans don't have a passport and don't know where Europe is, and they began cackling like witches. By being ignorant, by thinking politics and the world